This is 5 minutes with. I'm here with Scarlett Brown. Now, do we call you Dr. Scarlett Brown or is it Scarlett Brown? Dr.
Thank you.
Scarlett?
Dr. Brown, I quite like, but it
Dr.
depends
Brown.
what age you are, because of course, Doc Brown is quite a famous fictional character for a lot of us. So, yes, but Scarlett is also fine.
Well, very nice to meet you from Board Intelligence. Now, Board Intelligence is something that maybe a lot of our readers maybe haven't heard of before. If you had to describe it in a kind of 30-second, 1 minute nutshell, how would you describe that?
Sure. So we are Europe's largest board advisory and technology firm, and we operate across the globe, supporting over 80,000 directors and clients. And everything we do is about what we call supercharging boards with the science of board effectiveness. And that includes working very, very closely, not only with boards themselves, but with organizations that support boards or work with boards, which includes, for example, service providers, fund providers, and of course, everyone across the financial services piece.
That was a great 30-second intro. I love that. Everybody that I ask to do that, they normally go on too long and it's never that succinct. That's a really good description. Many
Thank
congratulations. So tell me a little bit about how this was set up. I mean, that's a lot of organizations that you're working with. How
Yeah.
how does it look? Where are you based? What's the reach like? And
Yeah,
tell me a
sure.
little bit about where it started.
Yeah, totally. So we started life as a boutique consultancy, an advisory firm, working directly with boards to improve the quality, well, to improve their effectiveness, actually. But we realized very quickly that one of the biggest barriers to boards being really effective is the information that they have at their fingertips. The information is often too long, it's backwards looking, it doesn't drive the right conversations. And so what you end up seeing in boards is a group of brilliant people, often, who really want to do well by their companies, or by the companies that they have responsibility for or serve, and yet are being hindered by reams and reams and reams of data that isn't driving the right conversation. So we started life as an organization that was designed to help organizations do that, which also meant that we were working really closely with governance teams on helping them get the information to their board. So we are, old enough to remember the times of ring binders, and of printing out all the information and ring binding it and sending it to the client. And actually, our technology platforms were designed because our team were just sick to the back teeth of producing board papers and of having to, everybody's had that feeling of it's Friday night, the papers are just about to be UPS'd out the door, and then someone says, oh, can you change the number on page 76, please? And so actually the team built our technology portal, our board portal from scratch, in order to mean that we kind of went, there must be a technology solution to this. And the business has grown from there. So what that means is that we now have a actually quite unique blend of technology and advisory services. So everything we do is kind of rooted in understanding the pain points that governance teams, service providers, and boards have, the limitations to their effectiveness, and sometimes just the things that are taking the most time. So particularly when it comes to the way that governance teams service their companies or their clients. So things like the problem of getting papers to the board, of collating all that together, the problem of minute taking, of agenda planning. So we cover every aspect of what we would call the board reporting cycle, and basically everything that is involved in the kind of building up to, preparing for, running, and then after board meetings. We work to make that seamless, effective, and a process of value adding, which is that's the measure of when we've done our job right.
Fantastic. It's really interesting. The first thing you said really stuck with me. The fact that a lot of these things are backwards. It's backwards reporting, so you're not forward thinking. And how do you sort of get around that? What do you guys do to which should probably be a question in itself, and it is how is understanding AI and all that it offers to your proposition.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, two big questions. So I'll take them separately. So how do we help make board materials better, more forward looking, that kind of thing? So that's a long answer to a short question. But the short answer is that over the years we have bottled we kind of have a methodology and approach to best practice reporting, which is what we have, kind of distilled over the years. It's based on huge amounts of science about what drives better conversations in the boardroom, and we've kind of bottled that into our approach to best practice reporting, which is used in our training. It's used in the templates that we develop with our organisations that we work with, and it is used very heavily in our platforms. So yeah, everything that kind of makes up the way that all of our platforms are developed is based on best practice, whether that's our minute writer tool or our agenda planner tool or our report writer tool, which is the one that helps people write brilliant papers. So yes, there is a science to writing a good board report, but the reality is that most of the people who produce information for boards aren't taught it, because it's not a skill that is taught. And yet we also know it's one of the biggest drivers for how you get the most value out of a board meeting, right? Oftentimes we work with an organization because a chief exec or a chair will come to us and say, we're just not making the most out of our board, not making it the most out of the time that we have together. And that's where we come in. So that's how we work. I mean, we work in all sorts of ways, but that's how you kind of drive better reporting. So how does AI impact all of this? So, I mean, again, it's a huge answer to a short question, but what we're really seeing is that AI has the potential to change every aspect of how boards and governance teams work together. And there's loads that can happen. But at the same time, we know that it's an area that is sort of ripe for disruption, but actually there's loads more we could be doing. We've got boards who are nervous about using AI. We've got governance teams who are nervous about using it. So a big part of what we're doing is to kind of make sure that the AI is being used well. And also the reality is, when it comes to board information, the world of boards, generic tools like ChatGPT or Gemini or Copilot just really aren't fit for purpose. They just don't give you the advantages you need when it comes to improving board effectiveness or governance efficiency. You really need bespoke tools for that. And so since sort of 2022, we've been thinking about how we can use AI to solve the problems that we see in the boardroom. And the good news is there's loads of things that it can do for that, and perhaps not the most obvious ones. It can actually do much more than just make things a little bit faster.
Sounds great. And you know what? It's I think your I like your approach and your succinct answers always, especially in a 5-minute interview. just bringing this 5-minute segment up to a close. What would you say? Looking at board intelligence across the rest of this year and into 2026, what are you looking to achieve? And we're talking about you speaking at our Middle East forum in October. How important is the Middle East, and what other jurisdictions are you looking to expand into?
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, I mean, it's a super exciting time for board intelligence. We are expanding very quickly, engaging across the globe, and that includes kind of working and partnering with organisations like yourself to expand into this region and into other regions as well. I think for us, I mean, come back to a point we've already covered, but the role that AI is playing, both in our own development and in the work we're able to do with clients, is super exciting. And I think it's partly like, for my own sense, one of the things I think, you know, it's really exciting time is because we've always been an organization of problem solvers, of, you know, we really love data, we really love kind of understanding a problem and then solving it with a combination of humans and technology. And now we are in an era where we have so much more capabilities when it comes to that technology piece, and we have an organization that is full of boardroom experts who love solving problems. So when we come to designing a new AI platform, for example, we start with the problem in mind and we go, right, okay, we know that there is a challenge with the length of board papers or the amount of time it takes you to write minutes, or chasing down people for to pull the whole pack together, or just making the most of the time in a board meeting. Okay, so how do we understand that problem? And then how do we use a combination of AI and automation to solve that? And where do we need a human to still be in that driving seat? And I think because we're an organization that does that, we end up coming out with some actually really cool solutions to these problems that anybody who sits in a board meeting will know we have in spades. And I think when I look around and the way that AI is kind of seeping into every aspect of our work life, there's a temptation, I think, to think that AI can solve every problem. You know, that classic thing about if all you've got is a hammer, everything looks like a nail. And actually what we're not doing enough, and this is the reason why, you know, lots of AI pilots are now being scaled back, lots of lots of like experiments are then being put aside, is because we're not really clear what problem we're solving, and therefore we expect AI to just sort of make things better, because we must, you know, we're doing it a bit faster, so it must be making things better. But actually, if you can go from what's the problem I'm trying to solve, then use really, really clever approaches to prompting, to building, to automation, to AI, and then apply it to a place where we know there's a huge amount of opportunity to add value, that's where stuff gets really exciting. So I think everybody's kind of feeling that pace of change at the moment, but it's something that we're really excited for the next 12 months, just to see, how many of these kind of different problems we can start to really solve at pace.
Fantastic. Well, Dr. Scarlett Brown, thank you for your time today in 5 Minutes With, and we look forward to bringing you to our audience in Dubai on the 22nd of October at the Capital Club. It's part of the IA Future Advisory Forum and the II Middle East Forum 2025. Thank you very much.
Really looking forward to it. Thank you so much.